The Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting, February 5th, 2013, excuse me. Somebody, a little typo on the agenda here.
Oh.
So, still not used to writing that date, I guess, or typing that date. We'll begin our meeting with the salute to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Pullen, call the roll, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Mr. Snipes?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents? Mr. Roscoe?
Here. Okay, at the record show, Mr. Dents was called into work this evening, and so he regrets not being able to be here, but obviously has to pay the bills and put food on the table, so that obviously comes first. We're going to begin tonight's meeting with a presentation from Mr. Phil McAloon, who's a longtime volunteer in the township, and he's going to be talking to us and giving the update to the board, but also to members of the public about the Falls Township Community Garden. Mr. McAloon, I see you're bringing Lieutenant Ward with you. He's always been helpful. And
Hello. Thank you.
thank you, Phil.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I'm Phil McAloon. I'm the temporary chairperson of the Falls Township Community Garden. With me tonight is Lieutenant Ward and Eileen Donahue from our committee. 3 years ago, Lieutenant Ward from the Falls Township Police, Lois Goschek, and Joanne Cosgrove from the Shade Tree Commission, and Eileen and myself from the EAC began planning a community garden for Falls residents. We dreamed of a place where residents who wanted to garden but couldn't for whatever reason had a chance to produce their own vegetables. We went to surrounding community gardens in Langhorne, Middletown, and Lower Makefield and gathered ideals from each. In 2011, we chose our present site and got permission from Park and Rec Board and the Township to use a 100-foot by 120-foot part of Phase 1 in the community garden by the soccer field. We began by getting the grass stripped off. We ordered a 10-foot deer fence and several truckloads of leaf mulch from Waste Management. We were going to do 40 10-foot by 20-foot in-ground plots. However, after getting the soil tested by Penn State, it was determined the soil would not be conducive for growing vegetables and was too rocky to grow anything but weeds. I guess you people know that from from what we're doing over there now. Early 2012, we met and decided the best solution would be raised beds constructed with 2x8 pressure-treated lumber. Lieutenant Ward was able to get a lumber supplier in the township to donate 2 bunks, which is about 140 pieces of 2x8 10-foot lengths pressure-treated for the boxes. On 2 cold Saturdays in March, with the help of several community service kids, we constructed 40 4-foot by 10-foot wooden boxes and placed them in the now 60-foot by 100-foot garden, filling each with mulch and topsoil that we purchased. Another 2 weekends, we erected a deer fence and the community garden became a reality. We spread the word by mouth, and quickly the 40 boxes were assigned. Several people took multiple plots. By the end of May, all the plots had seedlings growing and the garden was bustling with blossoms. Over the summer, while I was gardening, many people came up and inquired what the garden was and how they could get a plot. We knew with a little publicity we would have a gem for Falls Township residents. All summer and into early fall, we watched the tomatoes, peppers, pumpkins, watermelons, corn, and various herbs grow to harvest. Unfortunately, the rabbits were watching them and chewed through the deer fence and feasted on the beans. We're going to take care of that problem this year with 2-foot poultry wire on the base of the fence around the garden. This year we have used the extra 2x8s we had left over to construct 6 more boxes, bringing the total to 46. We have also constructed 6 smaller boxes for flowers outside the gate area. With the help of Matt Markey and Peter Gray, we're able to streamline the application process by simply filling out a request form on fallstownship.com website. The application will automatically email to our mailbox, communitygarden@fallstwp.org. We also have a presence on fallstownship.com with pictures, the application, and the plot plan, and shortly we will inform residents on the cable channel. We're also going to get some publicity from the Courier Times this spring. We expect the 46 plots to fill quickly, so we're allowing township residents who have had a plot last year first chance to get the same plot this year. We will then assign plots to any other township resident who wishes one. If the plots are still available, we'll accept requests from residents who wish a second plot. Only after all Falls Township requests are filled will we accept non-resident applications. Plots will be assigned somewhere around April 1st. We are not charging for the garden again this year. So, what are our goals for this year? Well, we like to set up the bylaws and elect permanent officers. We want to establish a plant swap on Earth Day. Reach out to the Master's Garden program at Penn State to present 4 informative seminars on subjects like starting seeds, composting, controlling weeds, insects and disease, and any other worthwhile information, and it will be open to all residents. Another goal is to have a successful harvest and meet fellow gardeners, and lastly, have fun. In conclusion, we'd like to thank people who helped us get started. Lieutenant Ward, who started the momentum and helped obtain the supplies and approval of the township. Peter Gray, for his help and guidance during the entire process. Joe Orneo and his crew for helping with the fence and getting water for the garden. And Matt Markey for the website design and help with the application process. Finally, the Board of Supervisors for your support helping us get in a garden for the residents of Falls Township and for the approval of everything we asked for. Thank you for allowing me to address this meeting and for reaching out to residents watching at home. Thank you. Any questions?
Lieutenant Ward, Ms. Donahue, anything to add? And Mr. Macklin did an excellent job. I don't know if you want to say anything else now.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any comments or questions for members of the committee here?
Yeah, just if you do get the Penn State people in, would it be open to folks who don't avail themselves of the garden?
Anybody.
I could use some help.
Okay.
Well, Penn State Master Gardeners, you can call them anytime with questions on gardening. It's a free service to anyone in the county. And if you have any questions, whether it's pests or planting or gardening questions, you can always contact Penn State Master Gardeners.
I'm writing it down. Thank you.
Those seminars would be held here in the Township building, you think, or where would they be?
And we're planning on doing some actually in phase 1.
We're definitely holding one on Earth Day
On-site.
at the garden.
Great.
On composting right there at the garden. Because we have a nice compost system that Phil built. It's gorgeous.
It's really wonderful. And I know a community garden can really be a hub for people to get to know each other and make friends and do potlucks and have, you said, plant swaps. They do vegetable swaps too. Some gardens, people come and bring their produce in. People can swap what they have too much of. It's a great thing. And if there aren't enough plots, we might have to build more.
That's right.
That's great. Thank you for doing it. It's really wonderful.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate all the work you guys have done. Obviously, we didn't really have to do a whole lot other than just say yes, which the jobs that, you three, especially you three, have done made it very easy for us to say yes. So thank you. Mr. Rocco, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. I've been down there, I saw it. I think last year we approved the deer fence, the 10-foot deer fence.
Right.
Did it keep them out?
It kept the deer out perfectly, except
Except
the
the
rabbits.
Right.
Yeah.
You might want to remember to, if you can, to sink that fence a little bit into the ground, because rabbits will dig right under it.
What we find is that ground is so rocky.
They can't get through? There's a good reason for that rocky ground.
Okay, well, again, thank you very much, I appreciate the update, and if this information's on our website, correct, Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Okay, good, so anybody that's interested, that's listening, and had heard Mr. McAloon's presentation, you can certainly take a look at the Township website, and then, is there?
I believe it's on the front page,
Yes,
first
it
site.
is. Okay.
And there's a link to the application, so all they'd have to do would be click on that link, fill out the application, and it automatically gets sent to our mailbox.
Great, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to our first item of our agenda, which is public comment. Mr. Gray is getting the sign-up sheet. Thank you. Okay, first name on the list is Roland Kenny.
Good evening, Roland Kenny, Falls Township. At the end of the last century, I started coming here when I moved into the township. I seen a lot of things go on, and I asked the chairman one night, Alan Wilson, for something. I forget what it was, probably for something for Admiral, since I was president for so many years. And he sat there, as you sat there, and he says, as long as he's on this board, I'll never get a thing. And my comment to him was that night, I said, well, I guess I have to change the board. And the next thing he knew, I had Jonathan on there. And then you, I backed, and I told Mr. Dents I didn't back him. But in a way I did, since I backed my best friend, and we had 360 or whatever, but that's all the papers I had to give out. Every paper I gave out, they voted for him. So it put him on and took somebody else off. But that gentleman ran next, and we voted for him too. So we voted for you all. I'm happy. I have a request to ask of the board. On 1/7, the meeting we always have that the first of the year, and changing officers, same officers, whatnot. And Mr. Mackey said something happened to the thing and it never showed. I'm here to ask you tonight to show it before or after this meeting. Yeah, I think it's, might not be many people watch it, but the ones that watch at least know. I think some of them changed. Like I don't know who was the.
Mr. Snipes had been the vice chair. Mr.
Yeah.
Dents is now the vice
So
chair.
I think they should know.
So-
And plus, I've been taping these things since the day I started coming here. I hate to have one out. I'm very fussy on that. And with that, is that short enough, sir? I'll let you go. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, I think we
And
can.
Mr. Mackey said he would do it if it was up to you
Mr. Markey,
guys.
yeah. I
Markey,
think you can
Mackey.
access them online, right? You can
Yes.
access, all the meetings are accessible online. You can actually watch the
Yeah.
meetings online, but,
But my wife won't let me use it.
well,
And there's a lot of
might be a
people
good
like
reason
me.
for that.
I ain't the only
I'm
one.
not going to argue with your wife. That's not going to,
Neither am I.
so.
But think about it. I think it should be
Yeah,
shown.
we can take a look, and it's a reasonable request, I guess, for a meeting that just never got shown because of some technical problems. Okay, Mr. Mariani.
I took note of the letter this board wrote
at the last meeting, with respect, by the way, a lot of respect for what you guys did, supporting some enhanced form of firearm legislation with what the board called common sense gun laws. So I wish you would have sent a letter that I asked you to last September to support what was the Adams-Welsh bill, which did get passed in December, became law in December, and that was to register sex offenders. I would have appreciated that letter. Somehow it didn't happen. But as a Falls resident, I also sent a letter. I'm not going to read this, but I sent my own letter concerning criminal violence to Senators Casey, Toomey, Congressman Fitzpatrick, and my representative, John Galloway. I'll just give you a very brief excerpt from this letter that I sent, and what I said was, this is my opinion, and I respect yours, with over 22,000 gun laws that have already been enacted to control firearms, we don't need any more laws. What we need is some very effective enforcement for these laws that have already been enacted. Now, as a responsible firearms owner, which I am, I support most gun laws that prohibit certain categories of people for owning firearms, and among them, persons convicted or under indictment for crimes, fugitives, illegal drug users, illegal aliens, and mental incompetence, and so forth. But I did leave in this letter, I left them with what I consider to be reasonable and moderate advice to my senators and my representatives, and I told them that I am the first line of defense of my home and my family. Take that seriously. I, not some gun control fanatic who is masquerading as a civil servant, we've got a lot of them in Washington, I determined the best way to protect my family and keep my home safe. I am entitled to have the practical means to do so. Now, my choice to own a firearm should be respected, and it should be protected, and that right of self-defense is the reason why we have a Second Amendment. So I just wanted to add that to what you gentlemen did. Pretty much along the same line. But I just have briefly two questions from last time when we discussed the budget, and I didn't get an answer. On page 4, when I mentioned health insurance, that went from $65,471 to $91,223. My question then was, why? How many people are covered by that premium?
Is that the manager's?
Yeah, that's the manager's office section?
Yes.
Yeah, that's because the former assistant to the manager retired, and she did not have benefits through Falls Township.
Okay, but how many people are covered by that 91,000?
3.
3?
Yes.
Well, then I remind this board that...
Now, those are 3 family plans, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
2 and 1.
2 family plans
Family
and
plans and 1 single plan.
one single plan.
That's okay. It's over
Oh.
$30,000. The private sector health insurance did go up this year. It went from $15,100 in 2012 to $15,400 this year, and it seems to me we might be a little out of line in some of the plans that we offer here, and it should be reconsidered, whether you think it should be or not. That's an awful lot of money for a family plan.
Sure.
The other question I had was that when we got last year, the budget for the police department was $374,141. We got a grant at $216,779, which reduced what we had to put into $157,362. Where did the $216,779 go? I never saw an entry for that.
216, I believe that's the grant for the casino grant. Is that what you're referring to?
That was the grant for the police department.
Yes. I don't know offhand. You can come in tomorrow and I can discuss that with you.
Okay. Should have gone somewhere. I hope
Oh,
we
yeah.
didn't spend
I'll
it.
take some. Well, I mean, it's
It's there.
yeah, it's there. And
Okay.
just to let you know, and you raise obviously very good points. I agree with your point in terms of our views in terms of common sense legislation with firearms.
Oh, I respect you for that.
No, and I agree with your position as well. In terms of the insurance, we have most of the new contracts. We just did contracts with all 3 of our bargaining units here in the township that work in the building. And with the 2 of the 3, really for the first time, employees are paying into their health insurance.
I remember that. I asked the question.
And
5% they're paying in.
Yeah, I forget. There's a more dollar figure rather than percentage. But the other thing that the township, the board has been studying for a while now, looking at options, and I think we're relatively close to moving toward an option which we think will save the township a lot of money, because healthcare is still a major problem, major issue in terms of the costs being what they are. As Mr. Gray said, the family plan that covers himself and his assistant and also one other person from his department. You're covering essentially 10 people for that money, and you're counting children and spouses and things like that. So, would you say 95? Would you want to 95 or $90,000?
91?
$91,000. 65 to 91, I think you said, right? So. We agree that
91.
We agree that insurance is an issue, and it is something we are looking at. And we've been working, and our employees obviously recognize that too. They've agreed to start contributing.
Yeah.
So it is
We don't
something
want to
we're
take
conscious of,
anything away from anybody.
Right.
We just want to make sure that we're reasonable, that we're in line with the private sector.
Right.
And one day they will have it like some other townships who can no longer afford to give it to them.
Right.
So all I want to do is be reasonable. And so do you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Edgar Latuma.
Yes, good evening.
Hi.
Last meeting, I think I was in October, November. I went out for a while to my country. First of all, I want to say thank you for the soccer fields I went to see today. I know it's not going to be ready for the spring. Doing a good job. Before I left, I saw in the fall, my last game.
Well, the one field will be ready for spring, correct? The
That's
one
correct.
field will be ready. The one
on
other
the left,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
maybe.
So-
We got to see how it's coming back in the spring.
Right.
And the other one, I know they are a little late, but I hope they're going to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Another question I want to ask you, for this year, you have any budget to keep doing another 2 fields?
We don't.
Because we see if you keep trying to do, that way all the fields get.
Right.
Because now in the spring, I invite you guys aboard. Maybe you never go to the fields and see in the spring how many kids, since 5 years old until 18 years old, 500-600 kids play there.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy, everybody's with the township, the job is doing. But we're expecting to see if each year you keep doing a little more, that way we can finish all the fields over there.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have in mind to update, all the big fields that need the renovation. We don't have anything specifically budgeted for this year. Certainly, we can start the process of looking at some of that and doing some of the bid work and some of the work that's not as expensive. But that's work we're going to have to talk about. How we're going to attack that, how we're going to approach that. But it is something that we recognize that those 2 fields are done, or one's done, one's getting done. But there are at least 2 or 3 really other ones that really need work as well.
Yeah.
So we are going to do them. We don't have necessarily a solid plan to this year to do those 3, but they are definitely things we know we're going to be doing at some point.
Another thing, the field in Quaker Pain, I think I was reffing the last games, the big kids play there. Now we're going to lose a field here. I think we're going to keep using in the spring. We usually play Sunday after 12. So we're going to keep using that Quaker Pen because that's our field. It's Falls Township fields.
Right.
I don't know if I'm okay, but I hear rumors maybe they're going to leave to play football there, American football.
Well, there's a football league that is looking to use some space in Falls. Most likely, they're going to be using the field in the community park that's also used by the rugby fields. The rugby
okay,
closer to the pavilion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this league is Falls Township League, football leagues, or
It's a Levittown league. It services kids from over Levittown, but there are about over half of the kids involved are from Falls.
okay,
Which
because
is what we look for with anybody that's going to use our fields, is that we look for a majority of the people that are involved to be from Falls.
yes, that was another question I want to ask you. Finally, the last question before I left my last meeting I was here, I asked about the bridge here.
Yes,
I'm sorry I keep
No, I know.
bringing this up, but
No,
the last
it's
meeting,
fine.
I think, so they were saying they was going to start almost right away, but I come back after 2 months and it's
Yeah, this is the bridge over,
New Falls Road.
right, or South
Olds Boulevard.
Right.
South Olds Boulevard.
So it is, the project, we've approved the bids, we have the contractors gotten basically the go-ahead now, it's just a matter of waiting for the weather to be right to do the work. Is that right, Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, the culvert itself has been released for fabrication, and that's going to take a few more weeks. The detour plans are being approved by PennDOT because we're going to use one of the PennDOT roads as one of our detour streets. And we also need to discuss that with the school district so they know that when we do close the road, buses are going to have to take a different route.
Right.
All
Is
that being said, we should be able to start sometime in March.
Okay, so right now the plan is, once we get the approvals from PennDOT, once we get the actual culvert constructed, we meet with the school district and make them aware of everything. We hopefully can start construction, weather permitting, in March. What's the timeline from beginning to completion?
We think the road's going to be closed for about 4 weeks.
4 weeks?
Yes.
Oh, it's not bad.
Okay.
Okay.
We didn't do the precast footing, so
Right.
it's going to have to be open a little bit longer than if we had used precast.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's taken a lot longer than we wished it would have, but, when you go out to bid on projects, when you're
Yeah, I
asking
understand that.
contractors to bid on projects, if they come back with outrageous numbers, which is what happened, then that just, everything has to start all over again, and that's unfortunately is what happened to us, is that the bids that came in were just unbelievably high, and higher than they really should have been.
All right.
And so we had to start sort of all over again going out to bid, and that obviously drug out the process, and then it went into winter time, and then just, but I know I've gotten questions about it as well, and it's, obviously we're aware of it and we're working on it, but it's, as a government entity, we can't just sort of go out and do things like a private business can. We actually have to go through the bidding process and follow the state laws and everything, but,
All right.
okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, those are the names on the list. Anyone else wishes to speak? Mr. Dell?
Guido got my attention with the anti-gun comments. What did you guys send off, or what did you guys do, or what meeting was it that?
It was at the last meeting. There was a letter that was drafted by myself, essentially asking elected officials at the state and federal level to look into, for the safety of obviously residents throughout this Commonwealth and the country, to look at common sense gun legislation of some kind, as well as looking at mental health care in this country, in this state, to make sure that we're dealing with people that, need the help, that they get the help, that we don't find out about it too late. So we didn't sort of mention any kind of specific measures or ask for any kind of specific law to be passed. We just asked for people to sort of be open to discussion and talking about this issue, as I think most Americans are.
Okay, so there's no specific. You guys weren't asking anything specific, just general gun legislation to control crime.
Right.
Okay, because I understand we're going to have totally different points of views on guns. That's for sure. It's a tool, and mental health is I believe, the main aspect of everything, because you're not going to stop somebody who's willing to die when they go out that door and they say they're going to do some heinous crime, and you don't know what the next heinous crime is or what they're going to use or how they're going to do it. But mental health is basically the problem we've been having with the people that are doing these heinous crimes. But if you keep banning and keep pushing legislation for limited magazines, I can't have this gun or that gun, the criminals will still all have these guns. The only people you're actually taking this stuff away from are legal gun owners. The criminals, how long have drugs been illegal in this country? I mean, you could probably walk 10 minutes from the police station here and get any drug you want. And the fact is that every criminal will still have a gun. I think there's 300 and some million registered guns in this country. Mm-hmm. Think about that for a minute, because most of your shotguns and rifles aren't registered. Mm-hmm. And how many handguns out there are unregistered? Right. There's probably close to 1 billion guns floating out there, stockpiled for criminals all over the place. So if you take the guns away from every single legal gun owner, like they did basically in Australia, because I saw a piece over there where The people are complaining about home invasions have gone up 68%, armed robberies have gone up 40%. The statistics are horrendous, but they made them turn in all their guns, and they had those giant chop saws, and they were cutting those guns up and melting them down. These people are horrified. They can't protect themselves.
Yeah,
and
that's obviously not what's being looked at.
that's not what's being
either
looked
by
at
us.
yet. But for some people in
It's
this
not-
country, there's no end to it. They're not going to be happy until every last gun is off the street. But the fact is, it's never going to happen.
Right.
And not in
I agree with that.
500 years. Eventually, maybe you can get them all. But the criminals will always have the guns. And and there's enough gun laws on the books now to choke a horse. And they never really, I think the police and the judges, actually I think more the judges' fault, they never really prosecute these guys a lot on these handgun charges. They always get waived, and these guys are back out in the street in 2 or 3 years doing the same exact thing. So I would say it's not the gun, it's the individual, the mental health aspect, and maybe the background check aspect of it. But I just wanted to, I heard the gun thing.
I could tell.
Took some interest in it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else on the list, or who's not on the list? No? Okay. All right, thank you for those who spoke. All right. All right, second item on our agenda is a final land development for Wheelabrator and Falls, 1201 Newford Mill Road. Mr. Gray?
Yes, this is a final land development for Wheelabrator. They are proposing to construct a tarping station totaling 1,052 square feet of industrial space. Representing the applicant tonight is Mr. Ryan Tebbets.
Thank you for having me tonight. Okay, we have a letter here from T&M Associates, who work with Mr. Sullivan on the final resolution to this land development permit. And we've taken the comments into note. I've spoken with Joe Jones of T&M Associates. There's some small modifications that we have to do to the plans before we submit the final plans and Mylars for record. Attached to that, we also received the, Mr. Sullivan, what do you call this letter? The final resolution letter?
Yeah, that's the resolution that you're going to agree to all the conditions in there and ask for the waivers in the resolution to be approved.
Okay.
And if you wouldn't mind, you could explain briefly what the project is that you guys are
Certainly.
proposing.
At our waste-to-energy facility, we burn municipal solid waste, and it turns into ash at the end. It's a byproduct of our process. We load up trucks right now, and due to a new conveyor arrangement, the trucks cannot tarp properly inside the building. And in order to tarp them in the building, which they can't right now, they have to pull out and tarp outside. So as a way to mitigate any dust that gets generated when that happens, we're going to install this tarping station that allows the truck drivers to come onto a platform, tarp their truck, and then roll up a roll-up door and drive out. So it mitigates the generation of fugitive dust. That's the point there.
And imagine it also makes it easier for the driver to not have to worry about rain, snow, cold weather, or to be too hot, etc.
Yeah, this is the Northeast, and today's a perfect example of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And the waivers you're looking for, one involving sidewalks, one involving street trees, one involving curbs, one involving a site grading plan. So you're looking for those 4 waivers, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And everything else in here is a will comply in terms of?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's see. All right, I'll turn to comments or questions from board members. Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, I just said it wouldn't make sense to have a sidewalk in your area down there.
That's what we thought, too. Yes, correct.
No other comments.
Mr. Snipes?
The specific waivers again are, where are they listed again?
They're in the ordinance.
Waivers in the ordinance themselves.
It's also, well, it's also in the TNF letter. Very back.
Oh, okay, that's what I was. And the street trees, you're requesting a waiver from, this says 40 feet apart, you're requesting what?
Well, the spot or the location that we have currently planned for this tarping station is in a parking lot already. There's asphalt. The reason we're requesting the waiver is we're not going to be affecting any land that trees sit on. And it's more just to cover that aspect in case that ever came up. It's just crossing our I's, crossing our T's, dotting our I's.
Okay, thank you. And until now, they've had to tarp, you said they are pulling outside now.
Well, they recently installed a new conveyor, which lowers the clearance room, and that was within the last year or so. So after that, they realized, oh, okay, we got to do something else to correct this, and that's this project.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, Mr. Rocco?
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay.
Now, I had a question earlier based on a letter from Traffic Planning and Design regarding the fact that you're losing a parking space, but I understand that's been rectified?
Yeah, what we did there is rearrange our parking lot to remove 2 spots that were on the exit of the tarping station. And there was a minimum aisle requirement through this parking lot area. So taking out those 2 spots give us that aisle, and we were able to relocate them within the parking lot area to keep the number of spaces for the employees.
Okay. All right, and I see the fire marshal doesn't have any issues either. But obviously, we can meet with him once the tarping station's sort of complete to make sure he's okay with it.
Yep.
Mr. Sullivan, any questions from you?
No questions, Mr. Harvey. Just the waiver for the site grading plan is just because they didn't want to show the grading for the entire site, so they just showed it for the area of the project, and
Right.
we were okay with that.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment? See no hands. Okay, this would be resolution 13-8. Okay, granting final land development for a new tarping station for the Wheelabrator plant on New Ford Mill Road with the waivers listed on page 5 of that resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 13-8. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Right. All right, items 3 and 4 both apply to Metro PCS conditional use for cell phone towers or new antennas. For both of those properties, for both of those projects, Metro PCS is looking for an extension so they can kind of finish up some things. And we're going to be looking to table until April 2nd both of these items. Can we table them at the same time, Mr. Clark?
I would
One at a
prefer
time.
if you took them separately.
One at a time? Okay, no problem. All right, so we'll look for a motion to table the Metro PCS conditional use hearing for 275 Lincoln Highway. Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and a motion to table the Metro PCS conditional use hearing for 701 Falls Tollway Town Road.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. So, item 5 is consider S&S Wildlife Agreement for Geese Control at Falls Township Community Park. Mr. Gray?
The township secured a proposal from S&S Professional Wildlife Control Services for Canada goose management at the Falls Township Community Park for 2013. This proposal includes permits with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and egg addling. Total cost of the egg addling and the permits is $5,225, which was the same price as the prior year. This item also has been included in the 2013 budget. The board is asked to consider the proposal from S&S Wildlife. Also here tonight is Bill Reese, Park and Rec Director, and from S&S Wildlife, Rick Shadle.
Okay, gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind coming up. We know this is obviously an ongoing problem we have, and we're always going to have. So I guess maybe give us an idea of what we did last year in terms of trying, and specifically with S&S Wildlife, because I know we had another company come in and offer a different service too. But and what your recommendations are for this coming year.
Yeah, I think I would like to have Rick Shadle say everything he did last year. I have laryngitis, so I apologize for that.
Fine.
But I will say it's, as far as my recommendation is to continue doing what we've been doing the last few years, because I feel and Rick feels that it's been working. And even though I don't think you're ever going to solve the problem completely, since we have kids and adults out there playing, I think the more we do it and keep doing it, it should in the long run, maybe another 5 years from now, should really see a definite difference. Okay? Rick, you might just...
All right, Shadle?
Yeah, thank you. Evening, gentlemen. Good to see you all again another year. the last season, we treated eggs, found nests, and that's the summation of our work. We do provide Bill with some information in regards to additional things that he may want to consider. Last year, we did visit with the USDA in regards to obtaining a Roundup permit. Roundup was done 4 years ago, where we removed the adult geese, and basically through July and August brought the goose population down to zero to very few. And it creates a great starting point, removing habituated geese at the site. When we obtained that permit, the rules were slightly different than when we looked at obtaining it for last year, this past season. And so they've stepped up requirements for hazing efforts with the geese. So addling eggs, treating eggs, and finding nests is part of it, but they want to see a more aggressive approach. So if the township would desire to do a Roundup again, a more aggressive approach in hazing is going to be required. I understand that there's another company that may be involved this year. We welcome that. We've said all along the efforts made by Falls Township personnel has been great, but probably a more aggressive stance is going to be required. You don't know what pressure is happening to these geese. I have an idea what pressure is because everybody else has got them too. I mean, you're right in the middle of the Atlantic Flyway here, and that means that most of the geese flying north and south are flying right through Bucks County. It's just the way it is. And the geese that are over here, even though they're not migrators that are here in the summer, you still get visited with a lot of migrating geese, fall, spring, those types of seasons. So it makes the problem even worse. But the geese that are here, they're habituated, they're resident Canada geese, born and raised locally. They didn't decide one day not to fly north or fly south. They were born and raised in New Jersey, Philadelphia, Bucks County. They're not going anywhere unless you make them go somewhere. So we welcome that effort, and it would benefit the parks with that additional effort. In terms of what we did last year, there's a lot of ground out there to cover. We uncovered 9 nests and treated 35 eggs, and that varies a little bit from year to year. These nests are put down from late February even up to the beginning of June. So it's not like there's a 3-week period where everybody puts a nest and lays eggs and you can find them and be done with it. So it takes continual searching and going back over the property to make sure that you don't miss one. Discussions have been made in the past about, or comments have come from the floor, and we welcome any of that, but that young geese, goslings, and such are still seen at times on the property, even after we've done our work. That is due to what you have next door, which is 2 big bodies of water across roads from the park that are suitable nesting sites, but not suitable sites to raise a family. So all the green grass to eat, and these guys are cows with wings, that is a Canada goose. They're grazers. They hatch over there and they walk over to your property. So a hazing effort, even beyond what's been done by the Falls Township folks, is going to pay dividends this summer. You'll definitely see a difference.
Okay. All right, so let's see, questions from board members. Obviously we have the original sort of proposal here for $5,225, which is for egg addling and nest destruction permit and the egg addling program. But we also see on the last page of the proposal here a hazing program, and there's sort of an hourly rate depending on if the people are working daytime or nighttime, as well as a roundup, both permit cost as well as the cost for the roundup itself. Now, the hazing and the roundup are 2 different items, correct? So we could do one, not the other? Is that right, or do we have to do them both?
That's correct. Well, Bill had asked me to put everything in, kind of nuts and bolts here. And again, without a history of some additional hazing, from our company or another company, along with the addling and egg treatment, there's no chance of a Roundup this year. It just wouldn't happen. If the township wanted it, they're not going to get it. And I can say that with almost full assurance.
Okay.
Just because of that, they've changed the litmus tests. So they want to see a more aggressive stance. When the guy from USDA comes out, he doesn't want to see geese that are approachable. And when they see that, that means that they're not getting enough pressure in their eyes, and so they're not going to give that permit.
So we could do, so in other words, if we were looking to go more aggressive than just the egg addling, we could do the hazing, but probably not the Roundup.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, if the township decided to follow, to want to do a Roundup the following year, felt that it was noteworthy, it may not be necessary with an aggressive hazing campaign. It may not be. That would have to happen this year, that hazing.
Okay.
So we offer it as well, so I put it in there. Generally speaking, a site like this, as well as I know it, you would expect probably to spend $5,000 to $10,000 in hazing costs your first year at a site like this. That's a big difference, but it just depends on how the geese respond and what the pressure is off-site. If somebody else is pushing them here and we're not pushing hard enough to get them to leave here, then you got to push even harder. And that work happens day and night, as often or as infrequent as it has to.
Okay. All right, other comments or questions from board members? Maybe we'll start this end. Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, thank you. Have you surveyed the land recently?
I have not been over yet this year, no.
Okay.
No, we basically end in July, and then that's when the egg season's finished, so we're done.
There's quite a few birds there now. I was wondering if they were resident birds or...
It's going to be a mix right now. This is the time when birds are starting to move north. So, and they'll move, they just don't pick up and fly straight there. They'll stop on the way up through. So what you're seeing is a mix right now, and you'll see that for another month yet.
Okay, when we did the Roundup 4 years ago, how long was the site free of birds or near free?
Well, for certainly we did it in June, July, and even into August, it stayed clear. Okay, because basically we took away the habituated birds, and in June and July, they don't fly. So they lose their flight feathers. That's why you do the Roundup in June and July, because you can round them up. I mean, they're not flying. So after that, you'll start to get pressure from birds again. At that point, I was out of the picture. Now, I do know, following up the next year, that you start to get birds. It'll start to fill that void. As birds get pushed off of some other site, and they see a big open spot, and they come land on it, and they don't get the proper pressure, then they're going to start calling that home. So the easiest birds to unhabituate from a site are the birds that have no prior commitment to the site. So when new birds fly in, they need to be challenged, and they need to be challenged aggressively. And if they're challenged aggressively, they find out, well, gosh, this wasn't the best place anyway, and so they're going to go find someplace else. Now, those same birds may challenge you again a month later. That's goose control. It is certainly grass mowing, for lack of a better explanation. It's maintenance work. You got to do it, or that just gets way out of hand.
I think last year we used dogs as well. One of our control people brought in dogs to harass the geese.
Okay. It wasn't
was not
us.
you guys, yeah.
No.
Does that qualify for hazing?
It does. And the use of border collies is an effective tool. It's not an end in itself.
Right.
You know, many things in the toolbox is better than one or two when it comes to geese. And, you know, good dogs with good handlers are just an effective tool. The only shortcoming you have on this property is the large 80-acre lake. The dogs aren't going to swim that. And border collies that chase geese chase them into the water and will go in the water. But when you've got a body that big, the dogs are no match for them. The geese just move somewhere else in the water, and then once the dogs leave, then the birds slowly migrate back out. That's why we use dogs, used to have dogs. We developed some other techniques, and we feel the most effective tool for Canada goose control is two-legged upright things, okay? People, okay? And that's how we describe it to folks. So if geese understand that I will get in their face, and if they don't leave, it will be a bad day, and this is all a mind game. It'll be a bad day, okay? Then when you're out walking, and you're a two-legged upright thing, they may have the same sense about you. So we use those techniques coupled at night to challenge these geese. So night hazing is very, very effective. Geese are on the water. That's safety. Nobody bothers them. They don't like to fly at night. If it's raining out or a stormy night, they really don't like to fly at night. And that's when you get your best bang for the buck. That's when we love to go out and move geese off of water. It's a lot of fun. Make them go elsewhere.
So the things we did last year to haze them, does that qualify us for a roundup if we chose to do it?
It's not going to get you far enough, okay? One of the things that the USDA wants to see is that you would secure a limited kill permit, okay? And that is to be able to you'd have a permit that would allow you to take a certain number of geese. So animals do understand one thing really well, dying, okay? So a dead goose has an impact on live geese. It may be kind of short term, but it gets the point across. And so that is the permit that they would really like to see the township get. Now that creates a whole lot of other questions, but this stuff can be done in a safe manner and a very responsible manner. But gunning, removal of Canada geese happens in tighter quarters than it does at Falls Township Community Park. But I'm not saying that that's, the way to go, but they're pushing for that. They want to see a more aggressive campaign. So you guys ultimately have to make the decision. So you pointed
Mr. Dell's, as you can tell, a gun enthusiast.
He's
so
ready to go.
He's
So,
often offered his services to go out there with one of his assault rifles. And
so it needs to be more aggressive. And if the township says, you know what, we're not going to do that, but we're doing all these other things, and we can still make an impact without having to shoot a goose, then I think that you're going to have a good opportunity. Secure this should you need it. Many of the sites that we work at, other than Falls Township, I haven't done a roundup in years, because once you do one and you stay at it then and you become aggressive with the geese that fly in, most times you don't need it. It gives you a great starting point, and of course we've lost that momentum in 4 years. Not all of it, but you lose some of it. Some geese are hard-headed. It takes more to move them.
That wasn't an option, this limited kill. I didn't see that as an option on here.
Well, it would, if the permit was secured, it would be a part of the hazing program. So,
I see.
So it would be, the township would have to say, let's get the permit, because you get the permit, doesn't mean you need to use it to its fullest extent, but securing the permit is the first step to being able to do that.
Yeah, it seems to me if we don't treat them aggressively, or treat the problem aggressively, then it's just going to come back every year. I mean, it probably comes back every year anyway, but to me it seems like a bad problem that we have down there. That's why I asked if you were down there and if you thought the number of birds is reasonable. It seems like a lot to me.
It's, I mean, knowing the site, I know there's a lot of birds there right now. I mean, we typically get started late February, early March with our nest identification and checking the property over and seeing who wants to be where is when that starts. But
right. So if we decide to do any of these, when would you start? Right away?
Oh, with the hazing? Yeah.
The hazing and the identifying the nests.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the nests would start for sure by the end of February, early March. The weather plays somewhat in that. Continues to stay cold, snowy and all that. It pushes them back. We get a warm February, things start earlier.
Okay.
But the hazing, as soon as it can happen. And that would just be aggressive, an aggressive approach to the geese, whether it's on the water with a boat at night, whatever it happens to be, some noise, certainly an understanding as to, when noise is appropriate, when it's not. We work in very fishbowl environments, where you just can't do everything you want to do all the time.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. Mr. Snipes?
Yes. Do you or maybe Mr. Reese know how many years have we been doing the egg addling now? Is it 4, 5, 6?
Gosh, it's since 03.
2000s.
No, since 03, I believe.
And have you
I was
been
going to say it was about 2 years after I started, and this is my 12th year, so this would be our 10th year.
You said last year you only found 6 nests, I think you said, right?
We found 9 last year.
9, okay.
Year before that was 6. The year before, excuse me, the year before that was 6. Year before that was 8. Year before that was 12. Before that was 8. Before 5. So there tends to be kind of a cyclical nature to it.
Yeah, I just wondered whether we were seeing a drop off in the number of these imprinted geese, but maybe not. And my next question to follow up is, do you say there are some populations that never migrate and some that do?
Right.
And what's the difference? Are they different species?
Same species, but we used to have a resident goose population at the turn of the century. I mean, there was geese that stayed here year-round. I mean, if the snow covered, they'd go south as far as they had to go to get to open water or something to eat into Maryland or into Virginia. But through market hunting, that type of stuff, that resident population was pretty well eliminated. We don't market hunt anymore. There was an effort in the 50s to repatriate a resident goose population in many of the states throughout the country. Well, we've changed land use a lot, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. It was either a farm or a very urbanized area at one time. Now we've got great big rolling, fine-bladed green grass that goes for acres and acres and acres, and every one of these things, whether it's a business park, has a big old round wet spot in the middle. So everything these geese would want is there, plus a reduction in predators that you'd have more of that in a farm community. So the goose population exploded. Not what they were really wanting, but that's what happened. So
okay, thank you.
What we got.
Mr. Galloway?
I just have a question. It was 5225 we're considering for the addling program and the filing fees, correct? And then
Correct. And there's and that's something I think we've always sort of done the addling, as you've heard, 10 years. But on the last page, certainly, as Mr. Shadell is saying, there are other options here, sort of like a menu of things we could do. But as Mr. Shadell is saying, that we can pretty much are restricted to doing the hazing because of, I guess, changes in the way the USDA handles these things. We really couldn't do a roundup this year if we wanted to, but we could do hazing.
no, I understand the idea behind the hazing. I just was looking at, you said $5,000 to $10,000 would be the cost. So how would we approve the money for that?
Right. Yeah, I was wondering that myself. I guess we'd have to enter into almost like sort of a contract.
Or something?
I guess we could do a cost not to exceed if we wanted to, and if whenever they hit that cost, they would just stop.
Oh, yeah.
If it was a month, 2 months, maybe they never hit it because they get it done for that price. But an hourly rate is normally something more we see with our professionals.
We've taken a look at this issue with respect to whether or not this can be qualified as a professional service. And as most of you know, Jim Usual from my office, who handles all of the bidding matters, has done a little research into this. And there is a subcategory of professional services which refer to it as a highly specialized professional with unique expertise, and we believe that that falls into that category. So you could enter into an hourly rate agreement with a not to exceed, where if they needed to go above that hourly rate, they would need to come back and seek approval for going above, or not hourly rate, excuse me, that not to exceed amount.
Right.
They would have to come back and get approval to go above that.
Okay.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there any public comment? See one hand. Motion to open public comment.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Mariani?
We go through this every year, and almost every year I follow the gentleman. This egg oiling it's birth control is what it is, okay? Reduces the population, but it doesn't eliminate the geese. That's the problem. We talk about border collies, and they say that, you know, they can control the property, they chase the geese out of the area. It's endorsed by the Humane Society, and it is a very economical solution, and the dogs don't harm the geese. The geese look at the dog as a predator, and they flee to another location. The other three that I like, one is called flight control. That's sprayed on the areas where the geese are feeding. The product is safe for humans, it's safe for wildlife, and what it does, it causes a mild stomach discomfort to the geese and other waterfowl, and you should be interested in that, and so should Mr. Dents, because you're concerned about seagulls. So it works on them too. The product absorbs ultraviolet, see, Mr. Snipes like that when he wants to get rid of the seagulls too, I think. It absorbs ultraviolet light
About seagulls, that's all.
that only the geese can see. They can see that, and that it causes the geese to associate that treated area with the stomach ache. They leave the area and go someplace else. You're getting rid of the geese. The other one is at methyl anthrolite. It goes under the trade name of Rejected or Goose Chase. That's a spray repellent. It's placed on the grass, causes the geese to move in. It's made from a grape extract, which the geese don't like. It irritates their nerve and mucous membranes. It makes it unpalatable for them, and they will leave. They leave the area. The rain is not going to wash it off, and it's safe for wildlife and humans and everybody else. I'm saying let's get rid of the geese. You don't want to reduce the population. We've been doing this for 10 years. They're still here. The other Rejected that I like is what they call fog force. And what you do is you fog the area, and the birds will leave that area completely, but they don't return for an entire season. Now, you may have to fog them once or twice, and that will chase other birds away too. So you be careful how you use it, so on and so forth. But it doesn't kill anything, but it does get rid of your geese. That's where I think we ought to start considering this. We've been doing this other thing for 10 years. Let's try something that gets rid of the geese. And, you know, like my friend there, if it was up to me, Bob Cratchit and Tiny Tim wouldn't have to wait for Christmas to get a goose. Okay, so let's consider something else.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment? See no hands. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mr. Shidell, I know we've had these sort of similar suggestions before regarding the chemical uses of chemicals. Do you have any comments?
Well, the gentleman is very right on many of the things about it, chemicals and that type of thing. Fog Force rejects it, basically the same product is used for that. And with a hazing program like we would do, there are times when we use Fog Force. It is a thermal fogger where you turn the stuff into very small droplets and it's pushed over the birds. There's certain times you can do that and certain times you can't. It has a very strong grape smell and some people find it offensive. So if you've got a lot of folks around there at that particular time, it's not something you'd want to use. Flight control is an excellent product. We do use it, but we use it as a spot treatment product. The information that's available out there doesn't promise that if you do this twice, the geese will leave for the entire season. That's not the case, especially when you've got geese with heavy pressure on like there is in Bucks County. Those are products that you have to reapply. Grass grows, grass gets mowed, the product gets mowed off. If we have a wet season, you have to apply it more. Flight control and rejects it both have sticking agents, but even sticking agents only stick so long to turf. And if you got a wet year, you're mowing the grass even more. So you're mowing that material off and it goes onto the ground. If you skip using those products, or you have skippers where the guy that's spraying isn't quite on with the next row of spray, well, you've got a big old spot that the geese see and they'll work that. But the biggest thing with these products, particularly with flight control, is its expense. I know everything I've said is not cheap to do. That's goose. That's just the way it is. It takes a lot of effort. But flight control is a very expensive product. It's $250 last time that I bought some per gallon. A gallon covers an effective acre one time. You may have to apply this stuff depending on how, if you're using these fields from March to November, you may have to effectively apply that once or twice a month. And you start putting your acreage together, you can get into some serious money as well as having somebody apply it commercially. So, good products. I wouldn't recommend them here. Recommend them for areas that we have smaller areas to deal with. We use it on golf courses, on putting greens. A lot of damage can happen there. This is a great product for that. For islands, areas and around hospitals, those types of areas where it's very precise in its use. So I wouldn't recommend flight control here. Some of the fog force stuff, we may find it useful and would be a part of our hourly hazing efforts.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions for Mr. Shadell?
No. But do you know how many acres that the phase 1 is, that grass area?
Not sure
About?
of that.
The whole thing's the whole park's about 278. The lake's about 72 by itself. So I guess if you go with approximately 100 and some on each side. Minus parking lots.
And
Yeah, the
you
parking
have-
lots are relatively small, though, really.
Yeah.
You would have to
Other than that.
apply it everywhere. That's just, you can't miss spots. It has to be used over the whole site.
Yeah, I understand. I was just trying to get a feel for what it would cost per application, even if it was a range. So I guess we're not even close to coming up with that figure.
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Oh, I did have one more. So if we had dogs during the day, would you think it would be necessary? You had a day and a night price for hazing. Do you think that would be?
Absolutely. I mean, I'd be more than happy to work with somebody else
So
on the
maybe
property.
we would utilize you to do night hazing, boats and lasers, whatever else you got going on.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
All right, so we have, obviously we have the one recommendation to continue with the egg addling, $5,225. And then if it sounds like the board's interested in being more aggressive and not doing just egg addling, and certainly I think Mr. Mariani raises a good point. We've been doing sort of mostly just egg addling for 10 years, and the problem still exists. And the problem, I think Mr. Rocco was addressing it earlier in his questions, that we need to get more aggressive. And so it sounds like the board's looking at hazing as well. I guess the question for us would be, what dollar figure do we want to put on there to agree to the hourly rates provided here, a sum not to exceed something. And again, as Mr. Clark said, if it's still a time period in the year when hazing would be effective, and we want to keep going for another month or 2 months or however long, we could have Mr. Rees can come back to us with an ask for more money to keep going, and we could say yes or we could say no at that point. So I guess the question is, if we're sure we want to do the hazing, and I think we are, it sounds like we are interested in hazing, is there a price that supervisors are comfortable working with from the beginning?
5,000? I'm just making a number up. I didn't do
Well,
that.
he mentioned, he said 5 to 10,000 for the hazing. So that's a pretty broad field.
7,500.
That sounds great. That sounds great.
Right in the middle?
So we're talking about this in addition to the 55,
Correct.
52. And what was our total expense last year? Did we say that?
$5,225.
That was just the egg
just the
adding.
egg
Just did the egg addling.
Correct.
Okay. Well, we could try it. I mean, maybe it'll take care of the issue or go a long way.
Okay. The one thought I have is going back to Mr. Rocco's question about using the dogs during the day, Mr. Shadell's company at night. I'm assuming Mr. Shadell was looking at $5,000 to $10,000 day and night. So if we're using a different company during the daytime, it might not be is in the same range.
Good point, yeah.
Maybe we should.
And it may even come under 5. I don't know. It really just depends on how well they're doing, and again, what pressure we're getting off-site.
Right. So
As
maybe
to-
five
Five,
wouldn't be a bad number to go with. That sound good? Okay. All right. So we're looking then to authorize the expenditure total of $10,225 for egg addling, as well as a hazing program with S&S Wildlife.
Mr. Chairman, just.
Yes.
Do you remember, does anybody know what we budgeted for this year?
This was a budget, same dollar amount.
At the full, the
Yes.
10,000?
No, 5,000.
5,225, yeah. Okay. If that's agreed, is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, so and it's not to exceed. So, all right, well, thank you, gentlemen, very much. Appreciate that. It's always a busy agenda item every year. All right. Okay. Next two items, we're going to be graced by the presence of Mr. Matt Markey. We'll be discussing some technology updates, and we're going to rely heavily on Mr. Rocco to help us with this, as this is his field of expertise. Okay. All right, so items 6 and 7 both are involving upgrades or new purchases, software and other information technology upgrades for the Falls Township building and operations. I guess, board members, I guess we'll take these one at a time to avoid any kind of confusion over what the programs are doing or anything else. But Mr. Markey obviously has done the heavy lifting here on all of this, so we'll rely on him. All right, virtualization and server-side storage is what we're looking to purchase. So I guess obviously we need some information about what exactly that is.
Okay. On the administration side of Falls, we have PCs, we have a server, they interact in a normal environment. There's no overlying control mechanism. So when trying to add something to unify all the machines, we looked at different options, and one of the options is virtualization. Here at Falls, police have been using virtualization for about 7 years in the cruisers, here in the building, with a lot of success. So when considering options, we looked at bringing it onto our side. What it entails is moving the administration staff to a virtualized platform and adding server space to accommodate for those new users. And the idea is that now a person will come in, their PC will not have a standard Windows environment, it'll have another host operating system. They log in, and then all of a sudden it looks like their computer again. But in reality, they're being fed a virtual environment, one that's being controlled on the back end by a certain appliance, and that allows us to serve the proper programs, provide antivirus, all centrally controlled and monitored and protected. So it kind of brings it all in-house. There's other options, the benefits. We won't have, like, everyone has their home PC, gets a virus, you got to get antivirus, clean it out, it's annoying. In this environment, we don't have that problem. You don't have to worry about antivirus as much because it's not really an operating system in the traditional sense. So there's a lot of little benefits that will accumulate to be a big time saver and a big management saver. And also, we talked before, with our backups, with all of it being virtualized, our backups are more unified, more clean, everything's in one place and more easy to manage. So there's quite a number of benefits. A lot of it gets more technical. So if you have, I'll be happy to answer questions, but I know it's not something that people deal with on a regular basis. So I don't know how far to go with it, but I reviewed it with our IT guy, John Shaziri, here in the building. It's something we've discussed with the department heads, discussed with Mr. Rocco. It looks like a good option for Falls. Again, Falls the police have been using it for 7 years, the track record. Give it a try for us. The idea also is to do this service for 1 year, because at the end of the year, if we've had success with it, try to work something out with, the pricing, because the police do it every year. It's built into their it's built into their average maintenance and all. We'll build something into kind of, group discount, hopefully. So that's why we're just contracting for the 1 year for service.
Okay.
And then we can budget for future, come November, December.
Okay. All right, Mr. Rocco, anything to add or any kind of?
No, I met with John and Matt, and they kind of laid out the plan. As Matt said, centralized storage. For the administration portion, it makes it a lot easier. Antivirus, pushing out software updates, even things like Office updates. And also reduces the footprint needed for the NPC. So instead of buying a $700 PC, because you need a lot of horsepower, you buy just a slimmed down version, close to, I guess, what, $350 or something.
Yeah,
So,
we go from an operating cost of a normal unit of being around $1,000 after licenses with software to basic off-the-shelf $300 machine can get you the same environment with the virtualization. And if we have remote users, when they log in, if they VPN into the network, they get the same desktop at their desk as they do anywhere in the country. So there's also that benefit as well. If we have a lot of people go for training in different places, they can still get their full desktop environment wherever they are.
Okay. All right. Comments or questions from Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, I had read about the stepping down from the $1,000 units to the $300. I was wondering what they look like. Now I understand they're just off the shelf. The idea that you don't have to visit every PC is a wonderful thing.
Yes.
I don't know how many you have here.
Administration will be, initially it'll be 22 units that will be migrating to the virtual platform, but that'll expand because then we'll do the laptops that the code guys use, and it could be over 30 by the end of it. And we will be able to control all of them from one central unit, which is nice.
Again, not to restate it, but if someone's at home, they can just log on and it's all right there. It's like go to my PC, right?
Very similar, very similar. It's served a little differently, and you're not controlling a unit. Like with Go to My PC, you're actually controlling the physical unit in a different location. Here, you're just being served your virtual environment, and you're just being served at home with it. So you're not controlling your PC in the office because your PC in the office doesn't have the environment anyway. It's not until you log in that you create it or get it back.
So you're going to create like a centralized space, like drives, where everyone can keep their files, access them from any.
There's two pieces with this. It says virtualization and storage services. The idea is that there's an appliance that handles all of these serving out of the desktops, and then there's the storage and the back-end server piece. So everybody's files will be dumped into there and interact. The appliance actually says, okay, these files belong to Matt, and Matt's logged in, so we give them to Matt. That does. So it's two pieces, but they work hand in hand.
That's wonderful. Anything crashes, you have everything backed up. It's
right.
all. I hope it's not going to put anybody out of a job.
No, and I'm just hoping it doesn't, make me lose my hair.
It sounds like a wonderful idea. Thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Did we budget for this?
Yes, we did. It's in Mr. Markey's budget.
That's a good thing. And I will leave the technology to you. It's over my head, but it sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
I think I caught most of what was going on. Essentially, it's instead of each computer being its own fully functioning, self-contained computer with its own memory, everything else that's connected to a server somewhere, every computer is really just going to be almost, for lack of a better term, sort of a shell that connects to where all of the magic happens.
Absolutely. They're just end units, no frills machines can be used, and they get the same desktop no matter if I connect with my gaming PC or a no frills unit, you get served the same desktop.
Okay. Is there any kind of, imagine it doesn't sound like there's any kind of training that's like elaborate training that's going to have to go into this in terms of with the staff that's here in terms of how to use this?
No, minimal for that end of it. Just to, it's going to take a little bit of time to get all those units converted over.
Okay.
And once that happens, just getting them used to logging in. Okay. And then their desktop will look different. It's a little scaled down, but has all the programs and it looks like Windows. So
okay.
No learning curve there.
All right. Okay, and we're looking to go through Dynametrics for this for an amount not to exceed $6,500.
For 2013.
2013. Okay. All right, any public comment? See no hands? Is there a motion then to act on the virtualization and server-side storage?
So moved. Second.
Okay, and the amount not to exceed $6,500 for the year 2013. Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 2, the next item is an upgrade to the software for code enforcement and fire marshal's office.
So we use the BSNA platform. We brought it in-house a couple years ago with Tom Bennett. It manages all of our parcels that the code enforcement uses. It attaches, when you come and apply for a permit, it keeps track of all the information associated. This software is in need of an upgrade. BSNA has just put out that they have an upgrade available. Most of what it will do, it's mainly a back-end upgrade. It's a different type of database that will be managing it and the migration over. But they are recommending the upgrade because it will alleviate some of the bugs the current system has. They told us that the upgrade's available just a little bit ago, and this is to go ahead with that upgrade. Again, it's something that's going to take a little bit of time, so as soon as we can get scheduled and get this, we can schedule it and they can begin the process. Really, anybody who has the BSNA platform, and that's expanding every day, everyone's getting in line. So this is a much-needed upgrade.
Okay. Comments or questions? Mr. Rocco?
No, excuse me, I guess it's almost necessary evil. I mean, it's just...
It is, but looking at what the upgrade will give us, moving from the pervasive database to a SQL, it's something that should last for quite some time.
No, that's all I have. Thanks.
Mr. Snipes?
No comments.
Mr. Galloway?
No comments.
Okay. When was the last time we upgraded the service?
We apply regular small patches, but we've never undergone a major upgrade like this since we've had BSNA.
And how long's that been?
I want to say 4 years.
09.
09? Okay.
So going into
Yeah.
4th year. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have something else? Or no?
No, I'm assuming based on your statement that you just found out about the upgrade that this wasn't budgeted for? Is that correct?
It wasn't budgeted for directly, but I did include space in the budget that I did for these kind of like upgrades and patches, and we do have the funds available in the budget for this upgrade.
Okay. All right. Any public comment needed? See no hands. Okay. Is there a motion then to approve the upgrade to BSNA software for code enforcement fire marshal's office in the amount of $10,285?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, item 8 on our agenda is consider resolution for FEMA reimbursement for Hurricane Sandy. As people know, it took quite some time and an angry rant from the New Jersey governor for Congress to finally approve the funds for FEMA. And so that's what we're looking at here. Mr. Gray, you want to talk a little about this?
On Wednesday, January 23rd, the fire marshal and I attended a meeting regarding public assistance from FEMA regarding Hurricane Sandy. At the meeting, representatives from FEMA and PEMA provided applications and information on requesting reimbursement for eligible costs. Some of the reimbursements the township will request include overtime for township staff, including police, public works, fire marshal, support staff, and several services contracted out, including tree removal. Also, part of the application process, a resolution is required naming a representative from the township. Resolution has been prepared, and the board is asked to consider the resolution.
Okay, and for the record, it would be Resolution 13-9?
9.
Okay. Okay, let's see. And the person designated as you is yourself, correct, Mr. Gray?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Comments or questions? Mr. Galloway?
None.
Mr. Snipes?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
None.
No, I have none either. Any public comment? See no hand. Okay, is there a motion to approve Resolution 2013-9 as resolution for FEMA reimbursement for Hurricane Sandy?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, item 9 addresses the compensation for the tax collector. Mr. Gray?
Mr. Chairman, I'll handle this, if it's all right.
That's fine.
Every 4 years, when the tax collector for the municipality when that position is on the November ballot, the municipality must set the compensation by February 15th of that year, so that any individual interested in running for the office will understand what the compensation is for the position of tax collector. The tax collector is on the ballot this year in November. Back in 2009, excuse me, we passed a similar resolution adjusting the tax collector's salary. In anticipation of this coming up this year, my office, as we did for several municipalities and school districts, looked at the compensation for the various tax collectors in surrounding municipalities and have made a recommendation that the amount be adjusted from the current $1.25 per tax parcel to $2 per tax parcel, which is more in line with the surrounding communities. Included in the compensation for the tax collector is the office space here in the Township building, which she receives rent-free. That's why some people may look at the $2 and say, in some other municipalities it's higher, but in those instances there are not the rent is not being provided. So, and the rent would probably, when calculating with Mr. Gray, it would probably equal about another 99 cents per tax parcel. So you'd probably be talking, the compensation would be just under $3 per tax parcel.
Okay. And tax collectors are paid essentially by all 3 of the taxing agencies they collect taxes for.
That is correct.
And all of it is per parcel? Is that correct, the way it is?
That's normally the way most of the municipalities do it. The school district and the county are the other 2 taxing authorities, and it is usually done by parcel.
Okay. Okay. So comments or questions for Mr. Clark regarding, this would be, if approved, Resolution 2013-10. Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, just one. How many tax parcels do we have?
13,000?
13,500 approximately.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. So, and that's just in Falls. Obviously, if, Pennsbury, we're assuming, also pays by tax parcel, that would obviously include Lower Makefield, Yardley, and Tullytown as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they would pay that they pay it to the tax parcel just in Falls. Obviously, it would be just in Falls Township.
The tax collector in Falls is only
just
collecting the Pennsbury taxes for the Falls properties.
Right, and likewise with the county. She
Yes.
just paid for the county tax she collects here. Right, so any public comment needed? See no hands. Okay, Resolution 2013-10 then raises the compensation for the tax collector to, for Falls Township taxes, $2 per parcel, and also outlines the compensation she receives in terms of office space and other amenities here at the Township building. Is there a motion to approve 2013-10?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, we have 2 sets of minutes to take a look at, January 7th and January 15th. We'll take them one at a time in terms of looking for comments or corrections. Any comments or corrections for January 7th?
I have none.
So, how about comments or corrections for January 15th?
No. Excellent minutes once again.
Then we can certainly approve these at the same time. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for January 7th and January 15th as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't here for January, so I should probably
Okay.
abstain from
Well,
that.
we'll separate them then, make it easier for you. All right, so the minutes, excuse me, for January 7th, 2013. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Abstention.
Okay. And the minutes for January 15th, 2013. Is motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Pullen, for your work, as usual.
Excellent minutes.
We don't have a need for the executive session. Manager comment, Mr. Gray?
Yes, several items tonight. First item, a proposal for consulting services for the police pension plan from Thomas J. Anderson and Associates was received for the year 2013. Anderson has been the township's police pension consultant for many years. The current rate Anderson is proposing is $4,800. This is the same rate charge for 2012. Anderson's services include assisting the township on pension audits with the state, overseeing the pension funds, and consulting the township on various police pension issues that occur from time to time. The board is asked to consider Anderson Associates for consulting services for the year 2013 at a rate of $4,800.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members? No? How long have they been doing this work for us, Anderson Associates?
Anderson has been here since probably about 1996.
Okay. Okay. All right, is there a motion then to enter into the agreement with Anderson and Associates for the police pension as the police pension consultant for the amount of $4,800?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Next item I have concerns the Tree Vitalize Spring 2013 Bare Root Tree Offer. Recently, the township received the application for the annual Spring 2013 Bare Root Tree Offer. The bare root trees would be available in April for planting shortly thereafter. The township has done similar bare root tree programs in prior years, planting them throughout the township. Over 250 trees have been purchased through Tree Vitalize by the township. An application is required for the program. The Shade Tree Committee is requesting 20 trees at a cost of $50 each for a total of $1,000. The board is asked to consider the purchase of 20 trees as part of the Tree Vitalize program for $1,000.
Okay. Comments or questions from Mr. Gray regarding the Tree Vitalize program? I know he works very closely with the Shade Tree Committee and has for a couple of years now with this program. Any comments or questions?
Oh, looks good.
It's a great program. Let's do it again.
Okay, is there a motion then to approve the $1,000 for the Tree Vitalize?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Township received a letter from Jim Sullivan at T&M dated February 1st regarding escrow release number 1 for Trench Tech. This escrow release amount is in the amount of $32,819.05. This is for a letter of credit. The board is asked to consider this release at this time.
Okay, comments or questions from board members?
I have none.
Regarding the escrow? Okay, is there a motion then to release, to approve escrow release number 1 for Trench Tech Incorporated in the amount of $32,819.05? This is a letter of credit, right? Okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved. Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Township also received a request from T-Mobile for release of their cash escrow. This request has been reviewed and by T&M and recommended for release. The board is asked to consider the release of $2,467.96 from T-Mobile's escrow account at Falls Township.
Okay, don't imagine there's any questions again, pretty basic. Is there a motion to approve the escrow release for T-Mobile, $2,467.96?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, you're busy tonight, Mrs. Pullen.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Township recently received a request from George Galloway, president of the Bucks County St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee, for a donation for the parade. In the 2013 budget, the township included $6,000 for this event. Board is asked to consider a $6,000 donation to the Bucks County St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee.
Okay. As we know, the Galloway family is an integral part of making that parade a reality. It's one of the biggest parades, if not maybe the biggest parade in the county. Not just St. Patrick's Day, I think, but overall. And it takes place, of course, most of it, or a good chunk of it, in Falls Township. So we've made this donation, or similar donations, as long as I've been on the board anyway. So is there a motion to approve the $6,000 donation?
Before we make the motion, I just have to ask that I abstain from the vote because of my involvement with the parade.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion then to make the $6,000 donation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Abstain.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Township recently received a letter from the Delaware Valley Vietnam Veterans Flag Memorial Committee. They are requesting a donation for their 28th annual Flag Memorial Display. This event will be held on June 14th through the 16th. In the 2013 Falls Township budget, the township included $6,000 for this event. The board is asked to consider a $6,000 donation to the Delaware Valley Vietnam Veterans Flag Memorial Committee.
All right. Again, another great event that's held here in Falls Township, and we're proud to have it here. This is certainly every year it gets just a little bit bigger in terms of the people that come out and take part in it and come out and see the display and it's, I think, when I first started going to it and sort of speaking just as a representative for Falls Township, there weren't a whole lot of people there. It was a good core group from the Delaware Valley Vietnam Veterans, guys who do a lot of work throughout the town, throughout the community. And maybe a few elected officials now. It's, we're getting elected officials, from, miles and miles and miles away who want to be part of this and take part in it. And that's always sort of, I guess, whenever you have a lot of politicians around, it's usually that you're doing something that they want to be associated with, which is good. So I'm glad that they're certainly getting the recognition they deserve. And we'll remind people of this ceremony this event as it's coming up in mid-June. It's always around Flag Day. And so, but it really is neat to come out and take a look, and they're always looking for volunteers just to come out for an hour or so and just help put some of the 58,000 flags in the ground. And it, it's always a great group and always a neat variety of people out there, young and old, people with their grandkids and veterans and people that had never served. All of them out there just, for a little while to donate their time. So we're very proud to host them here. Again, a $6,000 donation is in line with what we've done in the past. So is there a motion to approve the $6,000 donation to the Delaware Valley Vietnam Veterans?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Township recently received a letter from Mr. Joe Jones, president of the Fairless Hills Athletic Association, requesting a consideration for a $6,000 donation for the league. This amount was included in the Falls Township 2013 budget. Board is asked to consider this donation at this time.
Okay. We've, in addition to some of the donations we've made to past organizations, Three Arches, Historic Fallsington, Delaware Valley Vietnam Veterans, St. Patrick's Day Parade, the American Legion that does a Memorial Day Parade. This year, we decided also to include money for the Little League organizations that are here to operate here in Falls. We typically do, over the course of their seasons, do a variety of work that helps them out. And so this seemed like we'd be able to give them some money to, they could certainly do a lot of it without having to come to us to ask for money. We could just sort of give them a lot of it up front. Not necessarily sure if we'll do this every year in terms of this much, but we certainly can take a look at ways to help them, above and beyond what we already do. So now we have two of them tonight. This is for Fairless Hills, correct? We're doing that one first?
Fairless Hills, yes.
So, is there a motion to approve the $6,000 donation to the Fairless Hills Athletic Association?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
The Township also received a letter from Mr. Jerry Sheplock, treasurer for Levittown Continental Little League. The The league is requesting a $6,000 donation for their league as well. This amount also has been included in the 2013 budget. Board is asked to consider this donation as well.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion for
Excuse me. As the president of the league, I'm going to abstain from the vote.
Right. Yep. Is there a motion then to make the $6,000 donation to Levittown Continental?
So moved.
Second?
All right, Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Abstain.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Up to board comment. So we'll turn to board members. We've had slightly longer than usual meeting over the past couple months, but we've been doing a lot of stuff here, a lot of good things going on. Anyone wish to start off?
Yeah, I'll go.
Volunteers? Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, real quick, I received a letter from Anthony Rosso. We've recently appointed Anthony to the TOFA board. He's also interested in serving on the Cable Advisory Board, and there's a letter in front of us kind of giving his qualifications, I guess. So I'd like to nominate Anthony Rosso to the Cable Advisory Board.
Okay. Yeah, we do have a couple of vacancies on there. I'm assuming I think we have three. Yeah, I think there's 3 vacancies. I think one's an alternate and 2 are regular members. I guess we should say appoint Mr. Rosso to the longest of whatever's left.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, why not?
I'm not sure which, either the terms could be 1-year terms, 2-year terms, 3-year terms. We'll have to figure that out and let him know. Okay, is there a second for the nomination of Mr. Rosso to the Cable Advisory Board?
Seconded.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And that's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Mr. Galloway?
Just that, because it came up tonight, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, it'll be the 25th year that we march. And the date this year is March 16th, and it will step off at 10:30 in the morning. And we look forward to seeing everyone turn out and all the volunteers who help make it happen. And I'm going to be mentioning that, I guess, at every meeting until then.
I'm putting it in my calendar as we speak here. Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Snipes?
No comment, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for a good meeting.
I was hoping you were going to give me time to put this in here.
Notice you're texting something, so I thought you were not very interested in my public comment.
No,
Hey, Brian. Hey, Brian, is the parade always the Saturday before St. Patty's Day, or?
Yeah, generally, we try to follow along that route, yeah. So we stuck to it this year. There's been years where we couldn't make it so, okay. But yeah, it's generally the rule. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Let's see. We made one appointment to a board earlier with Mr. Rosso. We have another gentleman who is interested in filling one of the vacancies on our Park and Recreation Board. And we have, I think, quite a few on there. Let's see. Give me just one, actually, I think now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have one vacancy on there now. And Mr. John Persichetti, okay, who is a resident of Falls Township, is very interested in being involved in promoting the parks and activities we do here in the township. Young man who is a firm believer in youth athletics, and he wants to ensure all township youth have a place to enjoy and pursue athletic endeavors. Okay, his wife, I think, was just appointed, or not, I know his wife was just appointed to another one of our boards. I know he was interested in getting involved as well. So at this time, I guess I'll nominate Mr. Persichetti to fill the vacancy on the Park and Recreation Board.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. And let's see, as we're coming to the end of the meeting here, I think that was all I had in terms of board comment. I know I've had a chance to attend, I know Mr. Rocco has as well, at least one or two, Mr. Dents as well, some DARE graduations recently. Okay, usually January, February, a lot of the elementary schools that have had the DARE program running with our police officers as well as Lower Makefield police officers. There are graduation ceremonies for those kids in those schools that have had those lessons during the winter time. And I want to thank our police officers who do an excellent job, as well as those officers from Lower Makefield who do an excellent job as well. And they always thank us for supporting them financially and allowing them to sort of come off the streets and go into the classrooms and try and educate the kids and give them as much information as they can about how to resist, you know, the dangers of drugs and alcohol and violence and smoking and making bad decisions. And so and we've been hearing a lot about people making bad decisions, and this is a good program that helps kids make good decisions. And so I want to thank them for all the work they've done publicly here, especially Corporal Wolverton, who's been really kind of the DARE leader for quite a long time now. It's really kind of his program, and so he helps recruit officers to do this, trains them. He still does some of the graduation ceremonies himself, and he sort of coordinates everything, so he does a lot of work. So I want to thank him specifically. And again, thanking all the professionals and administration here for all the work they do and for making this a successful meeting. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I see.